Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. So glad that you are here. You know this platform is dedicated to you, the industrial professionals, the companies. You guys are changing the world. We're bold, we're brave, we dare greatly, and we're changing the world. That's what the Industrial Talk Podcast is all about. It's about you. And we've got an incredible interview this time around. His name is Wayne Mullins, and he is the founder of Ugly Mug Marketing. And you know, you've been listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast. It's all about sales, marketing, and branding, because you have to change the world, so you have to sell your stuff. So thank you very much for joining. Let's get the show on the road. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. This was a really cool interview, too. So I'm not going to waste your time, but I do need to point out something here. So I did an interview with a gentleman by the name of Josh Ramsey, and we were talking SEO because you need to optimize your website. You need to deploy the technologies that get people to your website and get you up in the front part of that Google search. And look at that, man. If you're out there on the video, he sent me his book, How Some SEO Companies Disguise Laziness and Hide Poor Strategies. You know what the biggest part, as you can hear on the interview? It's still, SEO is still this sort of foggy thing. Josh does a great job at bringing it down to the tactical. So that's his book. It's fantastic. Josh, thank you very much for sending it to me. It's a really, I love the way it's laid out, too. It's very, do this, see this, 5 this, 5 that, 4 this, 3 this. Anyway, it's all pretty cool. So anyway, this interview, let's get going with a gentleman by the name of Wayne Mullins. Now, he came on because I'm always trying to find more insights into how to sell, strategies in marketing, strategies in branding, because you need to do it. You need to digest. You need to constantly learn. And Wayne brings to the table an incredible view and very simple, straightforward strategies on creating evangelists for your product, for your service, for your solution. So anyway, Wayne Mullins, great interview. Enjoy it. And you're going to have to reach out to him. So thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk Podcast. Here's Wayne. All right, welcome Wayne Mullins. He's with Ugly Mug Marketing. Thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk Podcast. So glad that you're making it and that you were patient with all the technical stuff. I spend a lot of money on my technical stuff, and it still fails.
Hey, thank you so much, Scott, for the opportunity, and I completely get it. Tech works great until you need it to, and it doesn't.
Why? I feel I don't know, man. I'm telling
Murphy's
you right now.
Law.
Okay, for the listeners out there, once again, you listeners out there, I'm passionate about marketing, sales, branding from an industrial perspective, and I'm going to continue to pump that into your head because it's important for you as an industrial professional to understand exactly what to do out there because you are changing the world, and that's why Wayne is with us here on Industrial Talk. Hey, Wayne, give us a little background on who you are and why you're such an incredible professional, and I like that big old hand, that peace sign hand. Never mind. Go for it.
Why is the peace sign there? Is that what you're going to ask?
Yeah, because I've seen it before, but I've seen it in something else.
The peace sign is there. It's a reminder that our job, when we do our job well, we give peace to our clients. They don't have to worry about their sales and marketing. That's why the peace sign is there.
Bring it on, baby.
There you are.
I like it a lot. All right, give us a little background.
My background is this. The super quick version is I went into college with the intention of being a nurse anesthesiologist.
That's a hard word to say. I can't spell it. Let's put it that way.
Anesthetist, I think. My junior year for Christmas, for whatever reason, my parents gave me these CDs by this gentleman of the name Zig Ziglar. And
that's it. That just ruined your life because Zig is the man. He is the man.
That one gift completely changed my life. So the CDs were on the secrets of selling. That may not have been the exact title, but that was basically what it was about.
Right.
And as you know, Zig always talked about how selling is the greatest profession in the world. And from that day forward, I knew I wanted to go into sales. So fast forward, I graduate from college. I get out of college. The only job I could get at the time was not a job that I wanted, but it was in sales. So I took it. I learned a lot and then parlayed that into a marketing job, sales marketing job. From there, I looked at the numbers that I was generating revenue for this company, and I said, you know what? I could probably generate this revenue for myself, so I'm gonna jump out and do it on my own. I left that job and started a very technical business called a lawn and landscape company.
There's plenty around in Louisiana, and it goes on all the time. Apparently, there's never any seasons. Why? It's just happens.
Absolutely, it's always something to cut. But I did that. I grew that company over a 3-year period, grew very quickly, very rapidly, and started having actually some of our clients of the lawn and landscape company ask me, "How are you marketing and how are you selling to grow your company this quickly?" And so it was from that Ugly Mug Marketing, the company today, was born. It was out of that kind of transition.
I like that. I like that a lot. And why Ugly Mug?
So the name Ugly Mug
outside of that, it sounds cool, but it's like Ugly Mug.
Yeah, it comes from this guy by the name of David Ogilvy. David Ogilvy immigrated over from Ireland, Scotland area back in the 60s. He landed in America with $40 in his pocket, and he said, "I'm going to build the world's largest ad agency from right here." Yeah. And within 15 years, he had done that. Now, the name comes from this. He had one saying that he reportedly said all the time, and that was this: "Give me an ad that's ugly that sells over one that's beautiful that doesn't." And so it's from that one phrase, from that one quote, that the name, we kind of just played off the fact that ugly that sells is better than beautiful that doesn't.
Oh, see, I like that. So you're singing the tune of, I love sales. I love marketing. I love the challenge that but here in industry, and this is why this is such an important conversation for you listeners out there, you have to do a better job. There's always a way of doing a better job at sales and marketing. There are strategies associated with it. It's not just, hey, all of a sudden now I'm a salesperson. There's strategies. It is a wonderful profession, and we're going to be talking a lot about, I don't know, I leverage this whole digital world, and I like it a lot, and I think there's a lot of power behind it. And what I've learned, listeners, is that there is a strategy. Beforehand, I didn't realize. Now I do know, and that's what Wayne brings to the table. This is going to be, you listeners out there, a pen and paper moment. So get that out, and we're going to be talking about like 3 points, three distinct points that you need to sort of take down and bring to your company, or if you're a company owner, begin to deploy. The first one I want to talk to you a little bit about, Wayne, is that, and correct me if I get this in the wrong sequence, you just sort of tell me to shut up in a nice way, but no, shut up. And then, but right off the bat, we're defining our marketing wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't understand. I mean, I understand it, but let's talk to the listeners out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So when a client comes to us, regardless of the space, the industry that they're in, whether they're in B2B, whether they're industrial, whether they're consumer facing, what we discover time and time again is that most people misunderstand and misdefine marketing. And until we clearly define marketing, we cannot do it correctly. So it doesn't matter who you hire. It doesn't matter if it's internal, external. It doesn't matter if it's you as a salesperson. You cannot market correctly until you have the right definition of marketing. So,
okay, I'm going to ask the question. It's like, give me an example of defining a market incorrectly and then changing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what we know to be true. Most people confuse marketing and advertising. They assume they're one and the same. So when we talk to people about marketing, we want to talk with you about your marketing. The very first thing that runs through their head is radio, television, billboards, print, brochures, websites, those things. And let me tell you, those things are most often advertising pieces and components. So what we do, we define marketing in a very simple manner, in a very simple way, and it's this. Marketing is your ability to attract and keep a customer. So there's 2 key words there. Marketing is your ability to attract the customer, which is mostly advertising. And then keeping the customer. That is where the gold is. That is where, in the industrial world for sure, that is where there's so much opportunity. Because what happens is, we're all guilty of this as salespeople. And at heart, I'm a salesperson. I love to sell. But what happens is we sell the customer, the client. We get the job, we get the project, and then what do? We're moved on to the next thing. We
Oh
forget.
God, that whole shiny object mentality is like, there it is. I'm going. I have to chase after. You're absolutely correct.
Absolutely. So the question for the listeners out there would be simply this. If you want to know how effective your marketing is, ask yourself this question. Your question is, what percentage of your quote unquote marketing advertising budget is allocated to attracting, and what percentage of your budget is allocated to keeping your existing
Okay,
customers?
so I get the advertising. Give us an example of something that is keeping. Is that a customer service type of function? What does that look like?
Yeah, so here's the thing. When we think of keeping a customer, we think of what you're saying is customer service. So when they have a complaint, when they have an issue, or maybe when the holidays roll around, we'll send them a nice gift saying, thank you so much for your business. But keeping a customer is simply this. It's about the relationship with the existing customer. It doesn't matter if your product is a recurring revenue piece. In other words, you're in the service business where you're billing month after month, or it's a one-time transaction. It is still your responsibility as the marketer to ensure that you're keeping that customer so that in the future, 3 years down the road, when they need what it is that you have again, they call you, or chances are they're in the industry, they have friends, colleagues, vendors, suppliers, etc., who may need your product or service that you don't even know exist, right?
Right.
So it's about building that relationship. The quality and depth of that relationship is in the keeping portion.
What is sort of the rule of thumb when you spoke briefly about the percentage, the breakdown, the cost? What is it, 50-50, 60-40? What do you think would be the best sort of allocation of capital or money in the difference between the attracting versus keeping?
Yeah, it's going to vary. It's going to vary greatly based on the specific industry that someone is in. But what I can tell you is the vast majority of people, they allocate far more on the attracting side than they do on the keeping side. And that's not just a monetary thing. It's also a time. So you think of your time as a commodity. How much time are you actually spending fostering and nurturing those relationships to keep those customers?
Yeah.
So that's the question. And what I would say is that whatever the number looks like, more than likely you need to devote more percentage to the keeping side than you currently are. You need to begin to tilt that scale that direction.
And that comes from you, Wayne, the founder of Ugly Mug.
that comes directly from me. Absolutely. I stand by that. Absolutely.
And I have to agree with you on that. There are challenges with attracting. Don't get me wrong. There is, there's just that. How do you advertise properly to create that attraction, that attention that brings them in? But the key is when that, and this is where if you bring them in and you start to provide whatever services, whatever you're doing, it's imperative that you keep it. And a lot of companies don't. A lot of companies let that fall, and then to try to attract them back, it's even harder.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Scott.
So invest that time, energy, and effort and money into keeping customers. Okay, listeners, let's just recap on that one. That is, you're defining your marketing correctly. Let's talk a little bit about two of the components. There's attracting the customers and then keeping the customers. Attracting the customers is specific to maybe something like an advertising, a digital strategy, things like that, getting them in the door, creating some sort of buzz. And then keeping, of course, is the relationship building. I like that a lot. That's important. Write that down. Don't come to me that you don't remember. Okay. Next one I have here is you wanted to, what's number two? Because I don't want to sit there and.
Yeah. So number two we want to talk about is what we call something as simple called the natural progression. The natural progression. Now, the simplest way to explain this is if you think of an old clock on the wall, a round clock up on the wall that's got the hour hand, the minute hand, the second hand. All right. At the 12 o'clock position, we have what are called strangers. All right. Then we move around to the 3 o'clock position. At the 3 o'clock position, we have what we would call friends. All right. So 12 o'clock strangers, 3 o'clock is friends. 6 o'clock would be customers. So we're moving around the clock here. 6 o'clock is customers. And then 9 o'clock are what we would define as evangelists. Those would be people that go out and actively talk about you, your company, your product, your service, whatever it is that you provide. Now, when we look at this natural progression and we view it as this clock, here's the interesting thing, and this goes back to the very basics of selling. In order to move somebody from a stranger to a friend, they have to, first of all, they have to know about you. If they don't know about you, they're never going to become a friend of yours. Now, there's another component in that process. In order for somebody to like somebody else or to be a friend of somebody else, they have to actually like that person. So one, they have to know about you to move from a prospect to a friend, but they also have to like you, right? They have to like what your product is, your service is, your brand is, your company is. So if you think of that just in terms of sales and or marketing, that is step one. We have strangers out there. Strangers are people that we believe may be a good fit for our product or service, what it is that we provide. Then we move them through getting them to know about us and to like us, to become our friend. It's only once those two things are true that we can then move them from a from a friend, the 3 o'clock position,
to a customer.
Now, there's one core element that's required to make that transition, and that transition is trust. Absolutely right.
Be still my heart. Yes.
Trust. You cannot get someone to pull out their wallet to order your product, your service, what it is that you provide, if they don't trust you. All right, so let's pause there real quick. So we're thinking of this natural progression. We're thinking of the clock. And here's the thing that I would tell you that most people make a mistake of doing, especially when it relates to advertising and marketing. They put too much pressure on their ads, the pieces and components that they're doing, to try to move people from stranger all the way to customer. In other words, you need to start mentally thinking about, what ad can I put out there? What thing can I do not to move people from stranger to customer, but instead, how can I move them from stranger to just a friend? And then once I get them to the friend area, once they know me and like me, then what advertising, what promotion, what marketing, what sales can I do to move them, to build that trust, to move them into becoming a customer? So what we often find is that people expect too much from their ads. So they get all excited, whatever the newest, what we call magic bullet comes along, right? The new thing. So it could be a new app, online app.
There's always a shiny. They're trying to find that shiny bullet, or whatever it does, or silver bullet, shiny.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing.
What the heck?
And so they run to that thing and they make this assumption that if I just do this thing, it's going to magically move people all the way from stranger to customer with one ad. I'm put up this one ad and that's it. Wash my hands of it and I'm done. Now, let's jump back real quick to the natural progression. So we now get them to become a customer, right? We get them to become a customer. And for most of us, if we're not intentional, we're done, right? We get the customer, we turn it over to whoever's going to be fulfilling it or to the other team. We're out of the picture, right? We did our job. We sold it, we marketed it, it's done. But here's the thing. We now have the opportunity to take that customer and turn them into an evangelist, someone who's going to go out and share about us and the experience they've had with us. Now, to do that, there's a few elements required to make that transition. One is, it has to go beyond just liking your product, your service, what it is you provide. They have to love it. And that doesn't mean you have to, provide quote unquote Ritz-Carlton service to them, but it has to exceed what they expected it to exceed. And, for those of you who are doing the selling, that's why it's so imperative that we don't oversell and underdeliver. It's imperative that we
don't do that, please.
that we align expectations with what our product or service is going to provide. So we have to get them to love it. So in other words, exceed those expectations. And then 2, we have to make it easy for them to share. And when you do that, if you imagine that same clock face again, so you've got 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, evangelists at 9 o'clock. When we create evangelists, what happens is they go straight across to 3 o'clock and they begin telling their friends.
Yeah, I was going to make that jump, because they don't have to, as an evangelist, and as they they talk to their friends, they're the ones that know, like, and trust them, right? Absolutely. And they're saying, hey, this thing is fantastic. You need to contact the company. Then all of a sudden you circumvent that whole know, like, because you've got your evangelist saying, hey, and in fact, one could even also jump to your customer at 6 o'clock if they do a good job.
That is absolutely right. And so
that's a machine. That's a huge machine.
It is a machine, but what it provides you with, so literally, if you just take out a sheet of paper, people listening to this, take out a sheet of paper and just kind of jot those circles down and kind of draw arrows between each circle, what it provides you with is it provides you with the framework to say, what marketing piece can I get to move someone from here to here?
Yeah.
Knowing that the two elements are, for the first one, from stranger to friend, the two elements I need to focus on are getting them to know about me and getting them to like me. And the same thing with your sales. So if you're in sales, that is the question you have to ask yourself to make that transition. And then same thing down at the bottom as well, from friend to customer.
All right, let me sum this up. This is natural progression. Once again, we talked about defining the marketing. We talked about that. This is natural progression. We've got the face of a clock, 12 stranger, 3 friend, 6 customer, 9 evangelists. And in between 12 and 3, you got know like. You got to develop that marketing piece to sort of begin that incremental movement of that individual or company or whatever. And then from friend to customer, there's got to be that marketing piece, that conversation that develops the trust. And then from 6 to 9, they got to exceed expectations. You got to love it and easy to share. And then you allow that evangelist to be able to do a lot of magic on that side. I like that a lot.
You nailed it. That is absolutely right.
I'm going to steal. No, I'm not going to. Yes, I'm going to steal it. I'm going to take it with a lot of passion.
Go for it. But here's what I want your listeners to think about. When you think about that, where is all the competition? All of the competition is over here on the 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock side, right? That is where everyone focuses all their time, energy, and effort. That is on the attraction side. Instead, there's no competition. There's very few people focusing on that keeping side, taking people from a customer into an evangelist. And so by being intentional in that one area, you automatically, and you used this word earlier when we were chatting, you create a blue ocean strategy, right? You create something that no one else has, so it's easy to stand out.
Oh, man. You guys better be liking it out there, you listeners, because I'm dazzled by it. I'm having a grand old time. Now, there's one last point before we wrap this up. There's one last point. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 2 questions, and I don't know where these questions come from. I'm sure
we'll just let Zig take it.
Yeah, I borrowed them from somewhere. But there are 2 questions that can literally transform. And I know that's like super hypey and it's super, it's a magic bullet sounding. But there are literally 2 questions that can transform the way you sell, the way your entire company grows. And those 2 questions are simply this. If every person on your team, yourself included, ask yourself these 2 questions every single day. What have I done to attract a customer today? And then the second question is, what have I done to keep a customer today? If every single day, every person on your team, from the CEO to the bottom rung employee, the newest person who just came in the door, if they will be intentional in those 2 areas every single day, even if it's just one thing, take one action in each of those 2 areas every single day, the transformation will be significant over time.
But that aligns with your original one where you're attracting and keeping it. It has come full circle in this conversation. You're just trying to establish that mindset that if I come in and I walk in and I say, okay, what am I doing to attract a customer today? What is it? To be very tactical. And you could use that whole natural wheel, that clock that you've defined. Yep. And how to keep. You're absolutely right. You're transforming. All right. Are you active out there on LinkedIn?
I'm not overly active on LinkedIn.
What are you active on then?
We are active most on Facebook and then Instagram. Facebook is our primary spot.
All right. And take note of that. So you're active out on Facebook because a lot of people do LinkedIn and all that stuff, but you're active on it. And if somebody connects with you, you're willing to connect.
Absolutely. I love nothing more than conversation about business and business growth. So love it.
I'm telling you guys, these are nuggets. These are gold nuggets. Maybe even diamonds. Let's make them diamonds. Diamond information, diamond insights.
I vote in favor of that.
Okay, diamond or platinum.
Hey,
something exotic, kryptonite. Nah, whatever. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm telling you, I really enjoyed the conversation there, Wayne. And you listeners out there, Facebook is the place to connect with him. Get out there. Your Facebook page is Ugly Mug Marketing, right?
That's it.
And then you spell your last name Mullins.
Yes,
First
sir.
name Wayne.
That's it.
Now, there's got to be a lot of Wayne Mullins out there, aren't there, on Facebook?
There's only one with an ugly mug like this, so
there you go,
it's the
man.
only one.
There you have
It's
it.
the only
All right,
one.
listeners, you got to check it out. And we're going to have all this information, all the links, everything that you need on industrialtalk.com. We'll find his podcast, his landing page with all the goodies that you need to connect with. I'm telling you right now, connect with Wayne because you will not be disappointed. And then you'll be a better salespeople. Everything. You'll be just better. I like that. So stay tuned. We're going to wrap it up on the other end. Thank you very much again, Wayne, for joining. You have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Scott. I enjoyed our conversation.
Cheers.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
Was I not telling you the truth? Wayne Mullins. He's knocking it out of the park. You need to listen to the guy. You need to reach out to him. Ugly Mug Marketing. Remember, Facebook and Instagram, that's sort of the best way to get a hold of this gentleman because he's dedicated and he's passionate about your success. Also, go out to industrialtalk.com because that's where all his links and everything else is associated with this particular podcast, and that's Wayne Mullins. Thank you very much for joining. Remember, we've got the Industrial Academy out there. We're going to be putting all this great stuff into that academy so that you can be the best that you could possibly be for the future of industry because, once again, you're changing the world. You have to. You have to be bold, be brave, dare greatly because you're changing the world. Keep at it. Do not quit. It's a brave new time. 2020, baby. Have a great vision. So thank you again. And come back because we're going to have another great interview that's going to be changing your world too as well. So thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk Podcast. Take care.